Hello, I invite you to the next episode of the series Polish Criminal Riddles. Today I will tell you about a case that raises my doubts. Once again, a young woman disappears without a trace. Again, the action of the event takes place in Krakow. The case takes place several months after the disappearance of Małgorzata Szabatowska. It was these two cases that were connected with each other by the inhabitants of Krakow. Here I must also admit openly, both women were similar to each other, both in terms of physical and character traits. Both cases are mysterious, and the circumstances of the disappearances are deceptively similar. Many ask themselves, is it just a coincidence, or the action of a serial killer? There is one more common denominator in both cases: the water reservoir in Krakow. This is where women's paths cross. I invite you to listen to the story, Agnes from Krakow. Over the course of 6 months, 2 women went missing in Krakow. The first took place in November 2010, the second took place in June 2011. Both cases were puzzling, both aroused great interest, both of the press and the public. The first disappearance was already discussed by me in the previous episode of the podcast. We are talking about a mysterious case, Małgorzata Szabatowska. I also mentioned a second missing woman whose case was being linked to Margaret's. Today I will tell you about the disappearance and search for Agnes. The prosecutor's office and investigators never connected these cases. On the other hand, I noticed many similar features in them. The same features were also noticed by the inhabitants of Krakow. Both women were of slight build, brunettes, medium height, wearing prescription glasses. Here the similarity was even in the frames themselves. Both Agnes and Margaret led a quiet life. They were not in conflict with anyone, they were appreciated at work. Both were conscientious and responsible. According to the opinions of the environment, they were characterized by a calm character. Women were familial, empathetic, and task-oriented. Their lives were static, focused largely on their professional path. Such psychological portraits emerge from the stories of people from their environment. That's why I'm not surprised that around these matters, a theory has developed suggesting the involvement of the same person. The cases are similar in almost every respect. The situation escalated to such a level that women living in Krakow were afraid to leave the house alone for some time. The results of the investigation did not diminish this fear at all. On the contrary, the position of the investigators only fueled the conspiracy theories. In this material, I will try to collect all the available information into one whole. Unfortunately, there are few publications on the internet about the case itself. Therefore, this task is harder than usual. Agnes was 25 years old. She was a resident of southern Poland. She graduated from high school in her hometown. Shortly after graduating from high school, she left for the capital of Lesser Poland. She began her studies at the university, Faculty of Law and Administration. Agnes in Krakow not only started her studies, but also found the love of her life. She met Adam in 2008, since then they have been almost inseparable. The man was 5 years older than her. They complemented each other perfectly. The couple decided to move in together after 3 years. They lived in a block of flats in one of Krakow's housing estates. They were planning to get married soon, and they wanted to buy their own apartment. The woman was in the process of finishing her master's thesis. In fact, she had already written it. The defense date was set for July 1, 2011. At that moment, all that remained was to master the material to perfection and successfully defend oneself. While still studying, Agnes took up a job in one of Krakow's law firms. Her biggest dream was to start her own in the future. She believed that work would prepare her for this and allow her to fully spread her wings. Agnes was extremely ambitious. She paid a lot of attention to her future profession. The last year of studies was exhausting for the woman. She divided most of her time between studying and working. Just writing a master's thesis was a hard task. Agnes had a lot of knowledge, but the hardest thing for her was to write it all down. The woman preferred action and practice. Writing was not her favorite activity. Agnes often organized herself marathons in preparation for her master's degree. She locked herself in the house, turned off the phone, and from the early hours of the morning until late at night, she simply wrote. This job and the way it was done was taxing for her. She always ended up exhausted, both mentally and physically. Therefore, the moment of handing over the work to the promoter was a kind of relief. The crowning achievement of her actions was to be defense. This opened many career paths. Agnes could choose a profession and do what she loved most for the rest of her life. That is, to stand guard over people who have been disadvantaged in some way by fate, those who needed this protection. Agnes believed implicitly in the administration of justice. June was a hard month for Agnes. The studies were at the end, but it was also time to say goodbye. A group from the field of study decided to organize a party. In this way, they wanted to celebrate years of joint learning, sleepless nights preparing for many colloquiums. It was the last chance to meet such a group. Most people were already planning their future career paths. Some planned to move to their hometowns for good. Agnes showed up at the meeting in a new dress and bought a beautiful hat. She was extremely happy. Everything began to fall into place in her life. She was finishing her studies, had a job and a devoted partner with whom she had a future. A friend from the group, Agnes, emphasizes that the woman was simply radiant. She had changed a lot in the last few weeks. She was cheerful and paid more attention to the choice of clothes. The image became important to her. This change was visible to the naked eye. On June 28, 2011, Agnes spent almost the whole day at home. She studied for the upcoming defense of her master's thesis. However, she arranged with Adam that they would go swimming in the evening at the pool. It was supposed to be a form of rest after a hard day reading books. When Adam called Agnes at 8:20 p.m., she told him that she did not feel like going to the pool that day. She suggested that in the form of rest they go for a walk around Krakow's Market Square. They made an appointment in the vicinity of one of the bookstores. They were to walk around the market square and return on foot to the apartment. The couple had an appointment at 9 p.m. Agnes started cleaning the apartment earlier and put the laundry in the washing machine. More or less around 8:50 p.m. she left her apartment. This is the last thing we can be sure of. Agnes was captured by security cameras in her apartment block, and she was also recorded by cameras outside the building. That's how we know how she was dressed. She was wearing a green hooded sweater, navy blue jeans, and gray sneakers. Her hair was tied in a ponytail. The woman did not take a bag with her, she only had a telephone and a city card. That's the last thing you can be sure of in this case. Agnes had to cover a distance of about 4 kilometers to the market square itself. Therefore, after leaving the block, she probably turned left. She walked a short stretch of her street and then headed towards the main street. She probably wanted to go to the tram stop there. From there the tram line 19 left. However, he is not sure if the woman got into it. She could also go in a completely different direction and turn right after leaving the building to get to the market square by brisk walking. At that time, Adam was waiting for his beloved in the place designated for the meeting. Agnes didn't show up. The man tried to call her. Unfortunately, there was no response on the other end of the phone. Adam remained in place for less than an hour. He hoped the girl was just late or missed the tram. After that time, he decided to return to his apartment. Unfortunately, Agnes was not there. Everything was in its place, and there were already washed clothes in the washing machine. It looked as if the woman had only left for a moment and would be back soon. Time passed inexorably, and Adam's anxiety grew with each passing hour. He still believed that Agnes had gone to the market after all. Perhaps she got the wrong way and is about to return home on the last tram. However, this did not happen. Agnes did not return to her apartment. When midnight came, Adam started calling all the hospitals in Krakow. He asked about women with a similar description to his girlfriend. He asked about traffic accidents and fainting spells, all to no avail. On the morning of June 29th, Adam reported Agnes missing at the police station. The officers quickly got to work, not wasting a moment. First, they called the woman's parents living in southern Poland, probably wanting to check if she is by any chance at her family home. For Agnes's parents, this information was a huge shock. The phone woke them from their sleep, causing them to wake up quickly. Agnes's parents came to Krakow immediately. As soon as they got there, they started searching on their own. They started with the immediate surroundings of their daughter's apartment. Inch by inch, they checked all the bushes and thickets. They looked with great anxiety towards the river and the surrounding water reservoirs. This case quickly became the media. The earlier disappearance of Małgorzata Szabatowska indicated that Agnes could be in huge danger. Agnes's friends reached the driver's seat on line 19. It was assumed that Agnes could board the tram around 21:10 p.m. Unfortunately, the driver did not remember a woman with such a description. The photo of the missing person also did not allow her to remember anything. She considered it likely that the woman would be taking this course. However, it cannot give guarantees. It was the same with people at the bus stop. No one noticed anything disturbing. Agnes's friends also reached them. They were helped by a special group created on Facebook. The trace of Agnes ends immediately after leaving the apartment. Investigators wanted to check the recordings from the surveillance cameras of the Polish post office. It is located near the stop where Agnes should get off. Unfortunately, that day the cameras turned out to be broken. Slowly, I am no longer surprised. Every missing person case ends the same way. It's always broken cameras. The family and friends of the missing woman hung posters all over the city. They continued to walk around Krakow in the hope of finding a trace of the missing woman. The police then also decided to check the BTS signals. The last location pointed to the vicinity of the bridge. Agnes's phone was logged in around 21:37 p.m. The search for Agnes was carried out both on land and on the river by the Water Commissariat. The latest discovery indicated that the woman could have fallen into the Vistula. It is worth noting here that the last login of Agnes's phone took place more or less halfway from the woman's apartment to the Krakow Market Square. Recordings from cameras along the entire route were carefully monitored. However, the image of the woman has not been revealed anywhere. As the days passed, the parents of the missing student became more and more convinced that their daughter had been harmed. They rejected the hypothesis of running away from home or acting to their own detriment. This didn't sit well with Agnes. Even the team of the Polish Investigative Program Intervention came to Krakow. The woman's relatives spoke in the report. The suffering that befell them was hard to describe. His eyes were full of despair mixed with hope. It was always believed that Agnes would be found soon. On July 5, 2011, there was a breakthrough in the investigation. After 6 p.m., a woman walking by the lagoon reported the tragic discovery to the police. A woman noticed a body floating in the water. After the arrival of the police, the information was confirmed. It was the body of a young woman matching the description of the dress to the woman who had been missing earlier. An identity document was also revealed that confirmed it was Agnes. The woman's family chose not to identify themselves personally. They wanted to remember her as she was. Therefore, DNA testing was ordered. The test results only confirmed 100% of the woman's identity. Many activities were also ordered at the Department of Forensic Medicine. The expert medic showed a large number of rib fractures and the presence of water in the lungs. Based on the expert opinion, the prosecutor's office ruled out the involvement of third parties in the young woman's death. It was assumed that Agnes had acted to her own detriment or that there had been an accident. After the death of the student, the company responsible for the water reservoir in Krakow decided to fence the area and put private security guards there. We could end the episode there. However, the woman's family does not believe the prosecutor's findings. Agnes's friends do not believe in these findings either. They emphasize that she could have had a worse time and had a hard year in college. But not now, not when she was on the final straight. Everyone is surprised by the presence of the girl by the water lagoon. It is a completely different area than the one in which the search was conducted. The result of the research conducted at the Department of Forensic Medicine is also surprising. A few months later, the body of the aforementioned Małgorzata Szabatowska was found. In her case, the test results also showed broken ribs. Both women had no reason to move away from their place of residence in an undetermined direction. Margaret's phone also logged before she died at the lagoon. So, are we dealing with the actions of third parties in both cases? Do investigators know something they don't want to reveal? There are still many unanswered questions. Thanks for listening to this podcast episode. I hope this format suits you. If you want to support my development, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Also leave a comment and share your opinion. Be careful, Paul.